My name is Sierra Webb. So when I was 6, myself and my sister and brother were all removed from my mother's care. It was actually a very traumatizing experience. I remember it also vividly. I was, again, the older sibling. So I was even at 5 or 6. I remember so intensely being the responsible one in the house, caring for my siblings, and that's what I loved to do. It was just very natural for me. But it was because, my mother was going through her own hardships. She was figuring it out as a single mom of 3. And she was doing the best that she could, but she succumbed to her own things. And so it affected us as children. We were moved from the home. I was placed immediately with my grandparents, who a year later ended up getting divorced. So at that point, we had no idea where I was going to go, who was going to take me. I had a family member, my aunt and uncle, who had taken my brother and sister. They already had 2 of their own kids. So when I came to this point of who's going to take me, my grandparents were not able to individually care for me. My aunt and uncle stepped up and said, I'll take her, but her sister and brother need to go back with their dad. We have separate fathers, and the same mother.
Right.
And so that was horrible for me because I didn't understand why we couldn't all just be in the same home. I'm 6 years old wanting to be with my brother and sister. I have this fiery, unconditional love for my brother and sister that I don't think could ever be put out. There's nothing anyone, or I would say even they, could do that would make me turn my back to them or not help them if I was capable of. And so that was really difficult for me. And I navigated elementary and middle school with a lot of anger that I didn't understand. I didn't process a lot of things growing up, and I was just simply kept from my mother. So we weren't even able to process some of those feelings together, let alone, with at home where my new home was.
Right.
I had a lot of situations at school where I was, acting out, as they say, or being super emotional, and the teachers didn't know how to handle it. And so I was constantly in the principal's office, just crying and having all these episodes. And a few things happened along the way, but I think through that, I became extremely determined by the time I was, about 4th or 5th grade, to be Miss Independent, to wear my heart on my sleeve, to be as strong as I possibly could, because everybody needed me to be. But I didn't realize the effect that had on me.
Sure.
And so, by the time we get to high school, we moved to Germany my freshman year, moved back sophomore and junior year, and then we moved out to California my senior year. That's with my adoptive family and their 2 kids. And so the constant going back and forth and having to navigate all of the feelings of leaving relationships and having to start new relationships, I was just horribly unsettled for so much of my life. And then there's this added dynamic of being in a family who I know these aren't my biological siblings or biological mom or dad, and not understanding some of the complexities that come with that. They were absolutely amazing to me and provided a wonderful, beautiful life. But when you don't understand so many of your emotions that are happening, especially as a child. And then I'm an angsty teenager at that. So I'm going out doing all these crazy things, spending as much time as I can with my friends and kind of displacing myself out of my reality, staying as busy as I can. And I didn't realize until about 5 years ago when I met my now still therapist that was a survival technique for me, that displacing myself and staying busy and not paying attention to the emotion was difficult and made it that much more hard for me to function as an adult who did want to process her feelings and did want to be the best mom she could be, but might have learned some negative traits and I had a lot of reflecting to do. And especially I was triggered a lot because now I'm a single mom of 3 kids. It is almost like a mirror image of what happened to my mom and her and my father now. First and foremost, the first part of it is I regularly go to therapy. Actually, I just recently upped how often I'm going to once a week because life is crazy right now. I think it is for everybody.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've done within that, because that's been pretty consistent for me, is to be as transparent and open and outward as possible about my experiences within therapy. If I find things that I feel others could utilize, that I've learned that are super helpful, I try to share that. It's vital for me to be able to be as open. I don't think I could continue doing it if I wasn't open about it. Part of that is validation for me, and the other part of it is empowerment for others. The second part of that is that I am completely out there, grassroots efforts in the community. I sit on the Human Relations Commission and I co-chair the Stop the Violence subcommittee, where our mission is to interrupt and the cycle of violence, and ultimately with a goal to end it in Toledo. So I've been there for almost 2 years now, and hopefully just getting started. Within that, I have volunteered with many other entities, but I've found other opportunities to volunteer myself, particularly on committees or commissions or whatever it might be. So I sit on the Opera Community Engagement Advisory Committee,
Okay.
Particularly with the focus on family and community engagement. That's kind of my niche, is young people, but families in general. So I sit on that committee. At the library, I am sitting on many internal committees in regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion, what outreach looks like for us, and training and development. So, for example, we've working at the library, and I think I forget that counts as one too. I work at the public library, and that in itself is very social services oriented.
It is.
And as we're speaking, I have kids knocking on my door that want to talk to me. But
do you want to just take a
oh,
quick
no,
interrupt?
they know, they're just fine. They're just nosy is all. But that's why I'm here. It's why I do what I do, because I found a space where I can share my story and be impactful to people who might not know that they even need it yet. And that's young people, that's parents who might be in the thick of it. It's hard to see. So when you see a model, when you see somebody who looks different like me, come in and be able to just have a normal rapport with, chop it up, as I say, just feel at home,
Right.
and have that safe space to process kind of what's kind of going on. And then hear somebody say, you know what, I can relate to that. I understand. That's really important to me at the library. So here I sit on the Latino Cultural Committee. I work with outreach. So the library is making a massive shift to be community hubs within certain regions. And I've taken on a task to, right? I've taken on a task to write up what that means and to advocate for more support to make sure that we are able to function within the means of what does it even mean to be a community hub? It's a lot of work to provide resources, but not the services themselves. So I feel like I'm really pushing for this shift in the library world, to truly focus on the needs of the community. So then outside of that, even more, I work with the Arts Commission. Most of that is voluntary, and I'm one of those community members that if something's happened in the community, I'm just showing up.
Yeah.
I'm constantly engaging with people. I like to make connections and put people on to certain programs that I think might be utilized. I do everything and anything I possibly can. The church that I worked for some time and that I belonged to for over 10 years is a Unitarian church. Through my church, that's where I started my my volunteerism and love for grassroots efforts and that level of community engagement and advocacy.